Ethan had worked at the remote human outpost for almost 8 months, and he often joked with himself that the moon had more silence than atmosphere. Every corridor hummed with a soft mechanical sound, and every shifting metal plate echoed like footsteps in an empty hall. He was used to routine work, fixing oxygen valves, adjusting power grids, checking research containers, but today felt different. A strange pod had been brought in from a recovery team only hours ago, and nobody knew what exactly was inside it. The pod sat in the center of the research chamber, tall as a human and covered with a faint frost that glimmered under the white lights. The glass surface was foggy, making it impossible to see the figure inside. Ethan was assigned to monitor it because he had the calmest record among the staff, never panicking when something unexpected happened. His co-workers often teased him, calling him half-machine Ethan, because nothing ever shook him. He approached the pod slowly, wiping his gloves on his jumpsuit, as if preparing for something delicate. He pressed a few buttons on the monitor connected to it. The pod was alien in design, nothing like the technology used by the Galactic Union. Smooth edges, no bolts, no open seams. It was as if it had grown, rather than been built. As he studied the readings, a soft glow began to pulse inside the tank. Ethan froze, thinking at first it was a malfunction. But then the glow grew brighter, steady, rhythmic. Almost like a heartbeat, the gel inside the chamber moved, swirling against the glass. He stepped closer, trying to see through the fog. Something moved inside. He took a breath. "Okay, not a drone," he whispered. The fog on the glass cleared just enough for him to see a silhouette, tall, slender, and clearly humanoid. Long hair floated in the nutrient fluid. Shifting with the waves inside the tank, a pair of bright eyes blinked slowly, adjusting to the light. Ethan's heart beat louder, but his training pushed him to stay steady. He didn't raise alarms. He didn't summon backup. Instead, he reached toward the controls and dimmed the lights slightly to reduce stress for the being inside. The eyes inside the pod focused on him. They were not hostile. They were confused. The glow brightened again, filling the room with a gentle, pale light. The being inside raised a hand, placing it against the glass. Ethan stared, wondering if he should mimic the gesture. Slowly, he lifted his hand and placed it on the same spot, though separated by the glass. The pod hissed. Ethan jumped back, startled despite trying not to be. Mechanical locks released one by one, and the top of the tank lifted with a slow, heavy sigh. The fluid inside began draining through the floor vents. The figure inside took a shaky breath and stepped forward. A woman emerged, tall, elegant, with silver hair that still floated slightly, as if the air had not claimed it yet. Her skin shimmered faintly with leftover gel, and droplets ran down her arms in long streams. She tried to step out, but her legs trembled. Ethan rushed forward instinctively to help her. She lifted a hand sharply, stopping him in place. "If I drip on you, it's your fault," she said, in a calm but serious tone. Ethan blinked. Of all things she could have said after waking from an alien tank, that was not one he expected. He tried to hide his surprised smile. Okay, I'll take the risk." The alien woman narrowed her bright eyes at him, as if trying to understand whether he was mocking her. But Ethan's face remained gentle and steady. She took another step, this time managing to stand without falling. The gel dripped from her hair, creating a small pool on the floor. She examined her surroundings, then looked back at him. "Where am I?" she asked softly. "You're at a human research outpost," Ethan replied. "We recovered your pod from a crash site earlier today. We didn't know someone was alive inside." Her head tilted slightly as she studied him. "You are human." "Yes, name's Ethan." She looked around the room again. Everything seemed unfamiliar to her. "Your people did not attack me?" "No," Ethan said. "We don't know who did." She lowered her gaze, trying to recall her last memories. Her fingers curled slightly, and she touched her temple, as if a headache pressed behind her eyes. "My name is Seralis," she finally said. I was a navigator." "Navigator for what kind of ship?" Ethan asked. Seralis paused, searching her thoughts. "I cannot remember everything, but I know my ship was running. We were being followed. Something wanted the map I carried. Ethan nodded slowly. A star map? Yes. Routes to systems not yet opened for exploration. My people believed it was too dangerous to let others find them. Her breathing grew uneven, and she stumbled forward. Ethan stepped in again, offering support. This time, she didn't stop him. She rested her hand lightly on his arm, steadying herself. The air feels heavy, she whispered. That's normal. Your muscles are weak after being in the tank. He guided her to a nearby bench and helped her sit down. She looked around, curious about human tools and equipment scattered on the tables. Everything seemed simple compared to the smooth, organic design of her pod. Ethan grabbed a thermal blanket and placed it gently around her shoulders. Seralis flinched at the warmth, but then relaxed. Your technology feels different, she said. You mean basic? She looked at him directly. Honest. Your tools show their purpose. They are not trying to hide anything. Ethan chuckled. That's one way to put it. She continued studying him, her eyes noticing every small gesture. Ethan had never seen such intense curiosity, as if she was trying to understand him all at once. Not just his face or clothing, but the way he stood, breathed, and spoke. Her attention suddenly shifted. The room lights flickered for a second. A soft alarm beeped in the distance, signaling a power dip caused by the pod's activation. Seralis instantly tensed. That sound. I remember something like it. Before my ship fell. A warning. What kind? Seralis pressed her eyes shut. Her hands trembled slightly. Something was locking onto us. A presence. A ship darker than space. It wanted my map. I tried to hide the root frequency, but her voice broke. Not in fear, but in frustration. Ethan crouched in front of her, making sure she could see him clearly. It's okay. You're safe here, he said softly. She opened her eyes, searching his expression. Why do you say that so easily? You do not know me. Maybe, Ethan replied. But I know you're tired, confused, and alone. That's enough reason to help. Her bright eyes softened slightly, though her thoughts still raced. He handed her a cup of water. She sniffed it first, unsure of human liquids, then took a slow sip. She blinked, in surprise. This is plain. Yes. I thought humans filled everything with flavor. Ethan laughed. Not everything. Seralis drank again, adjusting to the temperature and taste. The water made her feel more grounded, more present. When she looked at him again, her voice was steadier. Your kindness is unusual. Not really. For my people it is. Before Ethan could ask more, the lights flickered again, this time more sharply. A low hum vibrated through the floor. Ethan knew this signal. It wasn't a simple power issue. Something outside the outpost was interfering with their systems. Seralis straightened, alarmed. That is the same pattern. The same presence. Ethan frowned. You mean the attackers? Seralis nodded slowly. If they found my ship, they may search for the pod. For me. For the map. Ethan moved to the control panel, checking the external sensors. Nothing appeared yet, but the interference pattern was real. Someone or something was nearby. Seralis tried to stand but lost her balance. Ethan moved quickly, catching her again. She stared at him, then lowered her gaze. I dislike this weakness. It will pass, he assured her. You just need time. I do not have time, she whispered. If they come here, your people will suffer because of me. Ethan shook his head. We don't abandon people just because danger follows them. Seralis studied him silently. She didn't know humans well, but Ethan's calm strength felt unusual, almost comforting. She had expected fear, suspicion, or distance, but instead she found someone willing to stand close, even when she warned him. Another memory flashed through her mind, lightning-like beams striking her ship, alarms screaming, her hands trying desperately to lock star routes behind encrypted walls. A shadowy vessel appearing in the distance, swallowing her ship's signal like a predator. She gasped, clutching Ethan's arm. I remember a silhouette. Large wings of metal. A red core. She suddenly collapsed forward as exhaustion took over. Ethan held her tightly, preventing her from falling. Her skin was cold, but her heartbeat was strong. He lowered her gently onto the bench again, pulling the blanket around her. "I'm here," he said. "You're okay. Just rest." Seralis tried to speak, but her voice faded. Her last whispered words before unconsciousness took her were, "They are coming." Ethan stared at her pale, exhausted face. He had no idea what kind of danger was approaching, but he knew one thing clearly. This alien woman, dripping with the last drops of tank fluid, had trusted him more in the last hour than she trusted her own memories. And whatever threat had chased her across the stars was now heading toward his quiet, lonely outpost. Ethan looked toward the dark window beyond the chamber, feeling the silence deepen. He had no idea how much his life was about to change. Seralis woke several hours later, her senses adjusting slowly to the warm yellow lights of the medical room. The air filters hummed gently above her, and the blanket wrapped around her shoulders felt soft, almost comforting. For a moment she forgot where she was, but then she noticed Ethan sitting on a small metal chair beside her bed. He was leaning forward, elbows on his knees, watching the monitor that displayed her vitals. His eyes looked a bit tired, as if he had not slept either. When she shifted slightly, the blanket slipped, and a drop of leftover tank fluid rolled off her arm. It landed on the floor with a small sound. Ethan glanced at it, and then, at her, with a faint smile. "I put a towel under the bed this time," he said quietly. "Just in case." Seralis stared at him for a moment, trying to decide whether he was teasing her. "Humans have strange humor," she said. "Really? That was the best I could do." She almost smiled, though the expression felt unfamiliar. Her body still felt heavy, but stronger than before. She pushed herself to sit up, gripping the blanket more tightly around herself. "How long was I unconscious?" she asked. 4 hours, Ethan replied. "Your body needed it. We ran a scan, nothing dangerous. Just exhaustion." Seralis closed her eyes, feeling a wave of relief, mixed with embarrassment. She did not like appearing weak, especially in front of someone she barely knew. But Ethan had stayed, even though her presence had brought danger to his outpost. "Did the interference return?" she asked suddenly. "Yes, twice." Ethan stood and stepped closer to the control tablet near the bed. "It's not constant. More like a sweeping signal, scanning the surface. Whoever it is, they're looking for something." "Me," she whispered. Ethan didn't deny it. He simply nodded. Seralis pulled the blanket tighter around herself, feeling the weight of the truth. Her map, her mission, her survival, everything was tangled with unknown danger. She should not have involved humans, especially not this quiet technician who kept helping her without hesitation. "You should not stay near me," she said. "If they find me, they will attack. They may hurt you." Ethan shrugged lightly. "I've been in risky situations before." "You do not understand," Seralis insisted. "They attacked my ship without warning. They destroyed everything and everyone. They will do the same here." Ethan sat back down, looking calm. "Then we prepare before they arrive." Seralis stared at him, confused. "Why are you not afraid?" He thought for a moment, tapping a finger on his knee. "I am afraid," he admitted. "But fear doesn't mean doing nothing. And you're not alone in this." His words were simple, but they carried a weight that made Seralis look away. Her own people rarely spoke with such honesty. They were trained to keep emotions hidden, to show strength even when they felt none. But Ethan spoke in a way that made her feel seen and unexpectedly understood. He stood again. "You said you carried a star map. Do you remember where it is?" Seralis took a long breath, trying to recall the final moments inside her ship, before the crash. "The map was in a core capsule. I locked it inside the pod with me, under a layer the attackers could not detect." Ethan's eyebrows raised. "So it's still here?" "Yes," she whispered. "But I do not trust my strength to remove it. It responds to touch, memory, and energy. I am not ready yet." "Then we wait until you are." Seralis looked around the room, scanning the walls and door. "Your outpost. Is it protected?" "Moderately," Ethan responded. "Enough to slow down a threat, but not built for war." "Abi," Soralis's voice grew tense. "Then you must leave. Take a shuttle. Evacuate." Ethan shook his head slowly. "Leaving you here alone isn't an option." "Why?" she demanded. "You owe me nothing." He looked at her for a long moment, as if deciding how much truth she could handle. "Because you were terrified when you remembered those ships," he said gently. "But you still tried to warn me. You still thought of others. Someone like that shouldn't be left to fight alone." Soralis felt her breath catch. Something unfamiliar twisted inside her chest, not fear, not weakness. Something else she did not understand yet. The floor suddenly vibrated, interrupting her thoughts. Ethan looked toward the door. Power dip again. Soralis gripped the edge of the bed. "No. This is different. This is a landing shock." Ethan grabbed his tablet and opened the outpost's external camera feeds. The display flickered several times before stabilizing. A strange ship silhouette appeared over the horizon, dark, angular, and flying low. Soralis's entire body went rigid. "That is the same vessel," she whispered, voice trembling for the first time. "The same one that followed us. Also that flows. The same one." Ethan zoomed in, but the ship's details were hard to see. Its hull seemed to absorb light instead of reflect it. No visible markings, no windows. Just a dark predator gliding above the moon's surface. "They found the crash site," Soralis said, "and now they search for the pod." Ethan closed the feed quickly and turned to her. "We need to move you." "Move me where?" she asked. "There's an underground maintenance tunnel. It leads to the backup power center." Thick walls. Hard to detect. Soralis tried to stand but stumbled again. Ethan caught her arm gently, steadying her without hesitation. She felt another drop of leftover tank gel fall from her hair onto his sleeve. She sighed. "If I drip on you again, it is still your fault." Ethan laughed softly. "At least you're consistent." He helped her stand fully, wrapping the blanket around her like a cloak. She felt weak, but she forced herself to stay upright. She would not collapse again, not when danger was seconds away. They exited the medical room, walking down the dim corridor. The alarms had not triggered yet, which meant the enemy ship was scanning but had not fired. The air felt heavy, thick with tension. Every sound echoed louder than it should have. "Your people," Ethan said as they walked. "Will they come for you?" Soralis shook her head. "Unlikely. They believe the map and I were lost. And even if they discovered my pod survived, they would take too long to reach this place. Then we handle it ourselves," he said. She stopped walking for a moment. "Ethan, you can still run." He turned and looked at her calmly. "I'm not running." Soralis swallowed slowly. She was not used to trust. She was not used to someone choosing to stay. But Ethan's silence and steady gaze said everything. They reached a sealed door to the maintenance tunnels. Ethan entered a long code, and the heavy door slid open with a hiss. Soralis stepped inside first, her bare feet touching the cool metal floor of the narrow passageway. The tunnel stretched forward with dim lights. Ethan closed the door behind them and activated the manual lock. As they walked deeper, Soralis struggled to keep pace. Her body shook with effort, and sweat mixed with leftover tank gel on her skin. Ethan noticed and slowed down. "You can use my arm for support," he offered. She hesitated, then took it. His warmth steadied her, grounding her more than she expected. After several minutes, they reached a junction where the tunnel widened. Ethan set down a portable light and checked his scanner. "The enemy hasn't breached the surface yet," he said. "But they're searching." Soralis looked at the scanner too, noticing the expanding sweep of the ship's detection field. "They will find us soon," Ethan nodded. "Which means we need a plan." Soralis lowered herself onto a metal crate, breathing hard. "I can fight them. But not yet. My energy is blocked. The tank fluid slows the regeneration of my inner systems." I need time. Ethan sat across from her. How long? Hours, she whispered. Maybe less if I focus. Ethan thought for a moment. Then I'll buy you that time. Seralis looked up sharply. No. They will kill you. They'll kill both of us if we sit here waiting. Seralis reached forward, gripping his wrist with surprising strength. Ethan, your courage is admirable but unnecessary. You are human. You must survive. And you're my responsibility now, he said gently. Your ship brought you here. My job is to protect what arrives at this outpost. Especially someone alive. Seralis didn't know what to say. She wasn't used to such direct sincerity. It made her chest tighten, almost painfully. Ethan stood. I'll set traps in the upper levels. They'll delay the intruders long enough for you to restore your strength. Seralis shook her head, voice unsteady. You do not even know what they look like. What they can do. Ethan gave a small smile. I'll learn fast. Before she could protest again, he lifted the portable light and prepared to leave. Seralis reached out and caught his sleeve. Ethan, please be careful. He met her eyes and nodded. I will. Then he moved down the tunnel, disappearing around the corner. Seralis sat alone in the dim light, her heart beating too fast. She closed her eyes and concentrated, trying to unlock the dormant energy inside her. She would not let him face danger alone. She would not let her weakness put him at risk. Above them, the enemy ship cast a shadow over the outpost. The hunt had begun, and Ethan and Seralis were the only ones who could stop it. Ethan moved through the dim hallways of the outpost with a focus he rarely felt in his quiet life. He checked every corner, every vent, every emergency panel. The enemy ship hovered just beyond the horizon, silent but heavy like a storm waiting to break. If Seralis needed time, then he would find a way to give her that time. He reached the main control room and paused at the doorway. The screens flickered with interference, shaking lines dancing across the displays. He tapped a few commands, trying to stabilize them, but the ship's scanning field was too strong. They were close now, maybe already landing. Ethan took a slow breath. He wasn't a soldier, he wasn't trained for combat, but he understood machines, doors, circuits, pressure locks, things that could slow an intruder long enough for Seralis to recover. Her strength, once fully awakened, was unlike anything a human could match. He grabbed several power modules and placed them near weak structural points where a controlled overload could create blockages. Not enough to destroy the outpost, but enough to make the intruders take a longer route, forcing them to waste minutes they didn't have. The first tremor shook the building. Ethan froze. Dust fell from the ceiling. A second tremor followed, stronger this time. He rushed to the external feed again. The enemy vessel was lowering its landing arms, 3 dark mechanical legs extended, digging into the moon's surface. A ramp unfolded from its underside like a tongue of metal. Ethan whispered to himself, "They're here." Shapes began to move at the ramp's edge, tall, armored figures with glowing red visors. They walked with perfect coordination, like they shared a single mind. No sound escaped their movements. Even their feet stepped in silence. Ethan swallowed. He had never seen anything like them. He activated the first trap. A blast door at the far end of the outpost sealed shut with a heavy clang. It wouldn't stop the intruders for long, but it would slow them. He placed another charge and hurried toward the next hallway. Meanwhile, in the tunnel below, Seralis sat with her back against the metal wall. Her eyes were closed, her breathing slow but steady. She focused on the energy inside her, what her people called inner light. It was faint at first, like a spark buried under weight. But with each passing moment, it grew brighter. Her fingers trembled as she concentrated harder. She could feel the gel on her skin evaporating, her natural strength returning. She whispered to herself in her native language words of awakening, of rebuilding, of remembering. But then she felt something else, fear, not her own, Ethan's. Her eyes snapped open. She pushed herself to her feet, though her legs still felt weak. She took one step, then another, wobbling but refusing to fall. She had to reach him. She had to protect him. He had given her a chance to survive. Now she needed to return that promise. Above her, The intruders moved through the corridors. They reached the first blast door and began cutting through it with red beams. Sparks flew. Metal melted. They worked without hesitation. When the door finally collapsed inward, they didn't celebrate. They simply walked forward. Ethan watched from a hidden corner, holding a small remote. As the intruders stepped over a sensor strip, he activated the floor charge. A burst of electricity surged upward, throwing the first two intruders backward. Their armor sparked, red lights fading, but the others adjusted instantly, stepping around the damaged area. Ethan rushed to the next hallway. He knew he couldn't fight them directly. He had to rely on speed, misdirection, and the outpost's layout. He sealed another door behind him and sprinted down the stairs to the maintenance deck. He didn't stop until he reached the entrance to the tunnels. He placed 2 charges near the wall and whispered, "That should buy us a few more minutes." But a shadow moved at the top of the stairs. One of the armored intruders had come faster than he expected. It stepped forward, silent and deadly. Ethan backed away slowly. Gripping the remote, the intruder raised its arm. A red light gathered at its palm. Ethan activated the wall charges. The explosion shook the tunnel, blasting debris downward and filling the stairwell with smoke. Ethan stumbled but remained standing. The intruder fell back. Its armor dented but not broken. Ethan didn't wait to see if it recovered. He ran deeper into the tunnel. Seralis was already moving toward him, leaning against the walls for support. When she saw him appear around the corner, she felt a surge of relief. "You're alive," she said. "Barely," Ethan answered, breathless. "They're coming fast." Seralis straightened as much as she could. "How long until they reach us?" "Minutes." "Then I must stand," she said. She closed her eyes again, reaching for the inner light she had been building. Ethan watched as a faint glow spread across her skin. Soft but strong. Her hair lifted slightly as if touched by invisible wind. When she opened her eyes, they shone brighter than before. "Help me walk," she said. Ethan supported her, but this time her weight felt different, not weak, not collapsing, just unsteady, like energy was rushing through her faster than her body could control. They reached a larger chamber where the tunnel opened into an old storage room. Boxes were stacked along the walls, and a discarded generator hummed softly in the corner. Seralis stopped in the center of the room. "This place. It is open enough," she said. "I can fight here." Ethan nodded. "I'll stay behind you." "No," Seralis said firmly. "You must stay behind the boxes. If they see you, they will target you first." Ethan hesitated. "I don't want to hide while you—" "You gave me time," she interrupted gently. "Now let me protect you." Ethan finally nodded and stepped behind a stack of metal crates. The sound of footsteps echoed down the tunnel. The intruders were coming. Seralis lifted her hands slowly. The faint glow on her skin grew stronger, spreading like waves of light. She felt her strength returning fully, her power waking from its long sleep. The first intruder appeared at the doorway. Its red visor flickered as it scanned the room. Seralis took a deep breath and whispered, "Not this time." The intruder stepped forward. Seralis extended her palms. A wave of energy burst from her hands, bright and forceful. The intruder flew backward, crashing into the tunnel wall. The second intruder rushed in, raising its arm weapon. Seralis reacted faster, sending a narrow beam of concentrated light that sliced its weapon in half. Ethan watched from behind the crates, amazed. Seralis moved with precision even though her body trembled. Each movement carried purpose. Each burst of energy controlled but powerful. More intruders entered the room, surrounding her. Seralis spun gracefully, releasing arcs of light that struck their armor and disrupted their balance. She wasn't destroying them, just disabling them, sending them crashing to the floor with sparks flying. But then a deeper sound echoed through the tunnel. The leader arrived. Taller, heavier armor, brighter visor. Its presence filled the entire doorway. The temperature in the room seemed to drop. Seralis faced it. Knowing this one would not fall easily, the leader raised both arms, gathering a massive charge of red energy. Seralis prepared to counter. But when the blast fired, it was too strong. The force threw her backward, sliding her across the floor. Ethan rushed out from behind the crates. "Seralis," she coughed, trying to rise. "Stay back." The leader stepped into the room, charging another blast. Ethan looked around desperately. His gaze fell on the old generator. He ran toward it. Seralis saw him and her heart tightened. "Ethan, no." But he didn't stop. He grabbed the generator's exposed wiring and yanked them free. Sparks flew. He dragged the heavy unit forward, placing it between the leader and Seralis. The intruder fired. The blast hit the generator instead. Energy surged wildly, expanding in a bright flash. The explosion threw both Ethan and the leader backward. Ethan hit the wall hard, groaning in pain. Seralis screamed his name and forced herself to stand. Her inner light flared brighter than ever. She stepped forward, lifting her arms with all the strength she had left. A brilliant beam shot from her hands, striking the leader directly in the chest. The leader staggered. Seralis pushed harder. The beam intensified until the leader's armor cracked and its visor shattered. The intruder collapsed, sparks fading. Silence filled the room. Seralis fell to her knees, exhausted. She crawled toward Ethan, who was lying against the wall, bruised but conscious. "You foolish human," she whispered shakily. "You could have died." "All part of the plan," Ethan joked weakly. She placed her hand on his cheek, relief flooding through her. "You saved me." "You saved everyone," he replied softly. Seralis leaned closer, her voice warm. "If I drip on you again, then maybe this time, it truly is not your fault." Ethan laughed gently. Above them, the enemy ship began to retreat, its forces defeated. The danger had passed. Seralis rested her head lightly against Ethan's shoulder. She had come to this moon as a lost navigator. But she had found something unexpected, someone who fought for her without question, someone who believed in her strength even when she didn't. For the first time in her life, she felt safe not because of her power, but because of a human who chose to stand beside her. And as the quiet of the moon returned, Seralis whispered softly, "I think I would like to stay." Ethan smiled. "Good, because I was hoping you would." The light around her faded gently, but the connection between them stayed stronger than any enemy, brighter than any map she carried across the stars.